Hello, everybody. It is 5:30 Pacific, 7:30 Central Time. I'm in beautiful Edina, Minnesota, in my office, which is beautiful. In the Midwest, it's going to be light for another 2.5 hours because we're so north. Had some of my team who you know visiting over the weekend, and there was a lot of road construction. And here in Minnesota, we have two seasons. We have winter and we have road construction. And so uh, this was the road construction season, and there's a lot of closures. And so when I picked them up at the airport, I was a little late. I felt bad about it. But actually, people don't realize how green and how beautiful it is here in Minnesota. And so, welcome. This is my first Facebook Live. And I've done some Zoom webinars, I've done some other things online. But for those of you that know me, I'm a little late to the party, so here I am. I call out to, and I don't see actually who's on here, and so I don't know where I would look for that. But if you know me and you know some of our other teachers in Halal, there's Kumu Jane in Great Britain, and she wears lipstick. I didn't feel lipstick was appropriate for this Western audience. Dave Shepard, also from the UK, is a Huna teacher at Kumu, and he does not wear lipstick. So I'm not feeling terribly glamorous, but I'm really excited to be doing this. So I'm going to say how long it kind of flows, probably 45 minutes. And we're talking today about Huna. Since I can't actually see who is here, I'm scrolling up. Oh, there we go. Okay. And there it is. Okay. I get it. Hello. Okay. There are a bunch of people in here. I'm learning, so be patient with me. Anyway, I the topic is Huna. Huna is a collection of Hawaiian. Oh, hello. Okay, so now I'm seeing comments. Hello, Kristen. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Lets me know that somebody's alive out there. I see numbers, like a big number of people, but I don't actually see there. Okay, I've got Daryl and Jocelyn. Okay, we're good. So this is happening and it's real. Um, as you know, I work with a lot of people, and I want to talk seriously. You know, I like to joke, but I want to talk about seriously just about what's kind of what we're all facing. And every day, all day, I work with individuals, groups, families, students, lots of different kinds of people. And there's a theme. There's a real theme. And there's good news and there's uncomfortable news. The good news is that we as a society are entering a phase of our evolution, which is a higher vibration. We are becoming, and I think the reason why work that I do, the psychic development work, the Huna work, the integration of all the different modalities, Eastern and Western and Buddhism and Huna and all that, why it's becoming so popular and so curious, is that we as a species, as a race of people, as a collection of people, are raising our vibration. In the last 5 or 6 years, there's a phenomenon known as the Schumann Resonance, and some of you have heard me talk about this. Schumann resonance. You can look it up, and it measures the basically gamma radiation that's hitting the earth. And we know that we're under the influence of a lot of different kinds of energies from day to day. And for those of us that are of a certain age, I don't know whether it's always been that way, but I know to me it feels like there's just a lot more energy. And if you've ever felt like you have no reason to feel out of sorts, but you're out of sorts, which is going to be all of you, and if you say that you don't sometimes feel out of sorts and you don't know why, you're lying. None of us are upbeat and positive and happy and giddy and excited every single moment of the day. Uh, and that's just my experience. It's my own personal experience. I will have days like today where I feel really awesome and and then other days, and I travel a lot where I'll land in a different city. And many of you I can see on this call or this video are traveling. And man, some days I feel like I've been hit by a truck. Some days I feel not happy. Sometimes I'm very angry. Sometimes things just roll off my back. Other times I'm particularly insecure and sensitive. Now I'm telling you this from a 61. I'll be 61 in 2 weeks. I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of work on myself For those of you that know me, I've traced and documented 650 previous lifetimes with Brian Weiss that are recorded, and all the other work that I've done on myself to be a teacher, a kumu, if you will. And I do have clients now who are understanding. I had one just a few hours ago who said, okay, what's the next level of my development? He used to ask me, when will I be done? When will I no longer have baggage? When will I not be under the influence of astrology or the tarot or now the Schumann Resonance or solar flares or the tides or the moon or, yesterday was a new moon. Some people, for me, the new moon felt great, felt awesome. For other people, kicked them in their behinds, and they really felt it. So the favorite joke, the good news is, and this is a joke now, it's going to be totally irreverent, so get ready. We always have so many things to blame for why we're not so happy. So I take great solace in never having to be 100% at cause for my mood. That's the joke, because you can always blame your children or your spouse. There's going to be a million reasons why you can't be at cause, a million reasons why you're, and I'm choosing my irreverent language carefully, a million reasons that you are under the influence of negative emotions or limiting beliefs or limiting decisions. And so I line them up. I do have some even more irreverent jokes that I'm not going to say here, but if you want to hear them, you'll have to come to a class. Because you got to laugh. So we're here. It's 2020. There's a lot going on the planet. There is a global awareness. The good news is that our vibration is enhancing to a new level as a species. We're moving out of a 26,000 year cycle into another 26,000 year cycle. Literally, the universe is changing around us. And without great fanfare, many of us are being asked to and being challenged by managing ourselves in this new vibration. Now, some people say, well, global warming is the cause, and and pollution and politics and all that kind of stuff. Even aside from that and all those things that are happening as well, there is a global consciousness raising. In my own work lately, I'm going to say the last 10 to 12 years, I've been seeing vastly increasing numbers of children who are nonverbal, who are autistic, who are disabled in one way or another, who are yet extremely psychically gifted, who I communicate with telepathically, and figure out what they need and want from their parents and why they're incarnating. And I think that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign that our humankind, our humanness is evolving. The not so comfortable news is that as we shed this old skin of the Industrial Revolution, the 20th century, as we move into quite literally the age of Aquarius and beyond, we are called upon, and if you're on this call, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a light worker, you're going to be someone who's open to the metaphysical universe. And I had another client today who got a reading, who is called upon to stretch themselves to have access to the higher realms. And I joke about bunnies, rainbows, and unicorns, whatever's up there, whatever's on the other side, and still have their feet on the ground. And I suspect some of you know people who are in the clouds, their feet never touch the ground, or they're so earthy and rational and linear that they can't see beyond their nose, if you will. And so many of us who are teachers, light workers, all of you, are being called to stretch, meaning, yes, you have access to the higher realms, and yes, you're still in a body on the planet at this time. My other beautiful, beautiful joke, that's not really a joke, but it can often warrant an FU with the word spelled out and yelled at me, sort of in jest, is that we all chose this. And so when I'm blaming whatever I happen to be blaming for my impatience on any given day, I always stop and remember that I chose this. I met with a higher council. I'm part of a soul group. I know and have recognized many of you as part of our same soul group. We've done this before. we chose to do this. Even the Buddhists, and some of you have been studying Buddhism with me, even the Buddhists, in the particular brand of Buddhism that I practice, says that, in time, it's called Kuan Gongjo, limitless time ago, millennia, millions of years ago, we all got together and decided how we were going to do this. And so one of my favorite things clinically is when somebody's really whining. I mean, they're really having a hard time, really struggling with a relationship or their children or whatever it is. I kind of love to say, and well, you chose it. You chose this husband and you chose this child and you chose these parents. And invariably, I have done my work, and I feel vindicated when I get somebody saying, kind of like, but then they laugh and we laugh together about, on some level, we choose all of this. And that being totally at cause is overwhelming at times. That's why I like to have my scapegoats lined up, that it's the full moon, it's the new moon, it's any moon, it's no moon. It is the sun, moon, and the stars. It is because I make some Uranus joke that I'm not going to do here. We'll keep this PG-13 for the purposes of this thing. But it's nice to have your, at least, awarenesses, of why things might be particularly difficult. And so I don't need to tell you that we're in a pandemic. I don't need to tell you that the people that you work with and that you work on and associate with are also struggling. Today we're going to talk about Huna specifically as it relates to daily practice. And I want to, let me just scroll down here. Oh, how awesome. Just awesome. So many of you are Huna students already. Some of you are Buddhist students, Buddhist practitioners. Some of you, I know almost everyone that I'm seeing, and thank you, so many of you for being here. Huna, so this last weekend I had an opportunity to share Buddhism with some of the people that work with me. Curiously, I wasn't trying, but they got to hear the sutra, the Lotus Sutra, chanted, and they expressed a sincere curiosity about this particular kind of Buddhism. And they asked what the distinction between Buddhism and Huna was. And I get that a lot. Like, can I be a Huna practitioner and be Muslim? Can I be Lutheran? Can I be Catholic, Buddhist, whatever? And they really are different. They're apples and oranges. So Buddhism or Catholicism or Judaism or anything is a foundational religion, and religion can be spiritual. Some religion isn't spiritual. Some religion, very dogmatic. Some expressions of religion, very dogmatic, very academic, if you will. And that people, Kumumat will say, people come to Huna to find the mana in their tradition. So we've had Native American chiefs. We currently have a young man who is a master, a Kumu of Lomi Lomi, studying Huna to reinfuse the mana, the energy, back into his tradition, his lineage. And so Huna and a religion, insert your religion here, or your philosophy, your life philosophy, spirituality, whatever it is, insert it now, is foundational, and it can be genealogical rather. It can be inherited. You can come from a long line of lineage of a particular faith, culture, ethnicity, and that forms a foundation. What the folks that I worked with over the weekend noticed was that there was a different energy to the chant, the particular chant that we do in my brand of Buddhism, that's the Lotus Sutra. It's a foundational language, and it has a certain mana or energy to it. Huna also has chants, and if you've studied Huna, and some of you have, there are 18 different aspects to ancient Hawaiian Huna. I'm going to talk a little bit about those. Today we're going to talk about a handful of practices. Now, for those of you that don't, that are practicing, you'll know these very, very well. For those of you that are interested in learning more, stay tuned. We have a level 1 class starting, ironically, in Scottsdale, Arizona, not in Hawaii this time because of COVID. That's a long story. And if you'd like more information about the Las Vegas Huna coming up in October, it's www.drpatrickscott.com/Las Vegas Huna, or just lasvegas.huna.com. You can search on that, and you can learn what you want. It's a collection of tools. So I like to compare it like there's Hinduism, there's yoga. Yoga sometimes people look kind of spiritual. They wear turbans, they wear white clothing, they go to India and they study with people who are yogis, and they are not necessarily Hindu like that. Some people study various kinds of techniques, but are not bound to a particular spiritual path. And so, from the purposes of our work, there is no exclusivity. A beautiful saying in Huna is "Ohe pau ko ike e ko halau," which translates, "Think not all that all wisdom is in your school." And when I first started practicing or studying Huna many years ago, that's really cool because a lot of traditions, even a lot of psychological practices, modalities, spiritual practices will say, no, this is the right way. This is the only way. This is the one true God. This is the only way to enlightenment, that kind of thing. And the ancient Hawaiians really had it dialed in when they said, no, no, this is our way. This is a helpful way. We got some cool things. We'd like to share them with you. And you probably have some cool things too. So I humbly from my heart today offer you some tools and some tips and techniques about how to manage this that's going on. And I'm going to talk personally from what I do every day. I'm also going to talk about in general and then very specific protocols. And so we are recording this as I understand. And so you can replay it and and I'm going to go quickly through some of the very linear things. And I know that some of my students already have their pens and papers or their iPads or whatever they use poised, because I typically will roll into lists of things. And they really like lists. So we're going to give you lists of things. First list is the protocol for clearing baggage. So in the Huna tradition, a black bag, and this is an Americanized, anglicized way of saying a negative emotion or some energy that's imprinted in the neurology that is sitting there. Psychologically, I'm a therapist, pain, trauma from this life, anything, imprints itself in the neurology. Now, I'm not talking about neurology like the brain physiology, like the neuroanatomy. In NLP jargon, we talk about the unconscious mind, and oftentimes you'll hear the word neurology as where it's imprinted. And it's more of a metaphorical, not an anatomical place. And so many of you I've worked with, I know that will identify, let's say, anger, and you feel it somewhere in your body. And I can ask each one of you on this call, and there's quite a number of you now, yippee for us. I could say, where do you feel anger? Oh, it's in my chest every time. Oh, it's my shoulders every time. Oh, I get a headache every time. I get warm. I get flushed. And you'll have a concomitant or accompanying physiology that is associated with that emotion. And you know it. And even if you don't know it consciously, when I or another practitioner will say, okay, light up the baggage associated with anger, you feel it, you know it, even if you're not angry. It's really weird. And sometimes you'll be driving around, like I am, don't think I'm angry, and then someone will cut me off, and poof, I go through the roof. I don't literally go through the roof, but anger pops up. And it's been there, it's been dormant, it's been nesting, it's been hanging out, waiting for an opportunity, a trigger, to show itself. So this first list really is the list that I use of the protocol, if you will, for the order in which release work optimally happens. So I'll say that again. This is the list or the protocol of the order in which release work optimally happens. We have a technique, and so I do this one every day. It's called ho'oku'u, H-O, okina, or apostrophe, O, K-U, apostrophe, okina, U, ho'oku'u. Ho'o means to make, ku'u means release. So release meaning releasing negativity held in the body that's no longer needed in the body, essentially. And the practice is we do a monthly webinar as well. You can look at hkurelease.com as well for more information about that, which is a subscription that people just once a month clear their baggage out. The idea is that your higher self and your unconscious mind has the ability to clear out negativity without 20 years of therapy. Now, I've done 20 years of therapy. I mean, I know how to do therapy and to talk about it. It is the same process. So if you talk about your childhood and typically your mother for 20 years, you're going to release some baggage. You're going to get some new distinctions. You ask your higher self and your unconscious mind to light up the baggage associated, let's say, with anger, and it lights it up. You can ask the unconscious mind and the higher self to release it. easily and effortlessly, and it does. It's pretty magical, actually. So the protocol goes like this. It's always anger first. So we start with negative emotions, then we go into limiting beliefs, and I'll give you the protocols in a minute as I go through them. The first 5 emotions are negative emotions, and they are in this order, and this is important: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. Now, sometimes we place hurt into sadness. This is more of a judgment call, but for the purposes of this Facebook Live, I'm going to say there are 5 essential negative emotions that manifest in humans. They are the most commonly occurring negative ones. Now, you may say, well, yeah, but sometimes I'm not angry, I'm annoyed. Okay, well, that's kind of like anger. Or I'm frustrated, that's anger. I'm hopeless, that's sadness. I'm anxious, that's fear. And so on. So you get the drift here, that there are 5 basic clusters of negative emotions that humans can experience. Neil Donald Walsh, back in the 90s in Conversations with God, articulated, channeling God, allegedly, that there are really only 2 basic negative emotions that humans experience. One is love and one is fear. And that all other emotions come from or stem from that. And I can go with that. I can go with that in the positive sense, divine love, all the different manifestations of love, positivity. It's awesome. And the negative part of us not being safe, if you will, or not being happy could absolutely flow from fear. In the Huna tradition, we say there are 5, and they are, one more time in order: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. Now, the question is, why do we start with anger? Anger is the most highly charged emotion. And I used to do a lot more work with court-ordered domestic violence perpetrators who would come to me for anger management. And I use a technique called mental emotional release therapy, which is I've written a study about it. If you've studied with Dr. Matt or any of us, you've heard about it. And I will have, it's a sort of pseudo-hypnotic technique where they light up, if you will, the baggage associated with anger, and I will ask them permission. And these clients will come in, and then I'll say, okay, so we're here for anger management. I'll send them home with some homework, maybe some recordings to listen to. We'll talk about the dynamics of anger. Perhaps I'm reporting to their probation and parole officer, blah, 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 right? And I'll ask permission, is it okay with your unconscious mind to let go of anger today and be aware of it consciously? And I'll snap my fingers and they'll say no. And then they'll get pissed off at themselves. And then I laugh. And I'm going to run that through you through that again, because I think it's hilarious that someone comes from anger management. Their unconscious mind says, no, they're not ready to let it go, and that pisses them off. Or I send them home with a track on anger management, like a hypnosis track on anger management, and that pisses them off. So they come in and they're pissed off. Sometimes they're pissed off at me, but I kind of laugh at them directly and boldly, confidently in their face and say, well, of course you are. That's what you do. That's your pattern. And they say, why am I here? And people don't know this. Insurance doesn't cover court-ordered therapy. So like they're paying out of pocket to come to therapy, to work through their anger, and their unconscious mind says no. Well, because anger is a very highly charged, very protective mechanism of the unconscious mind. Think about it. If you're really pissed off, do people want to come near you? If you're really pissed off, do you want to go near people? You don't. And if you're really an angry natured person, chances are you're going to stay pretty safe because nobody's going to want to be with you. And so if you've developed a coping mechanism of getting really pissed off and pushing people away with your anger or your disagreeable mood, it's a great way to stay safe. And I'm saying this actually truthfully, just like a panic attack is a great way not to leave your house. And we'll get to that. But so these defense mechanisms, and you can hear in my intention of my language, there's no judgment. This is what you're doing, or this is what they're doing. Their anger is the emotion that they're bringing up. Has some purpose. It has some old purpose to protect the body. It's just not helping anymore. And so they declare that they would like to let it go, and we help work through them. So what happens, just so you know, is we just go to the next emotion, which is usually sadness, and they will let that go, and then we'll come back to anger. So anger we do first, because once you remove the mantle of anger, everything else can kind of flow. And for those of you that have done MER, it happens a lot where they'll release anger, then all of a sudden they'll get really sad. And I will just notice it. I'll see them, mostly on Zoom these days, not so much in person, but I'll see it on the camera and I'll say, is sadness coming up? And they'll go, oh yeah, I'm really sad. Now remember, none of this is conscious. So we go to sadness, then we go to fear. And fear is a very powerful defense mechanism, anxiety, panic. And that, I'm going to say to you guys today, I'm seeing behavior that can look like anger. I too had a man on an airplane a few weeks ago just scream at me I had pulled my mask on to take a drink of water, and he just, went nuts. And said, put your mask on, you're going to make me sick. And he had like the face shield and the mask and the goggles and the whole thing. Um, and it felt angry, but under the anger was a lot of terror. It was a lot of fear. And so fear immobilizes us. It keeps us safe because we won't take unnecessary risks. And so people that you work with, or, that have had a lot of trauma, they have panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. Fear is a very powerful mechanism to keep us safe. And that's the purpose, by the way, to worry, to be nervous, to be tentative, to be hesitant. So fear is third. Then hurt. If we've been hurt, that's a defense against getting into relationships of all kinds or taking unnecessary risks. Same thing. Guilt. If we're not so happy about our behavior and we feel guilty, whether it's ours to feel guilty or not, it will adjust our behavior and so on. So those are the 5 basic emotions. From there, we go to limiting beliefs. Now, I've added a couple things. So if you're Huna students in Kona or study with me at level 1, I've added a couple things here that are unique and maybe new to you. Certainly limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good at relationships. I'm not good with money. I'm a loser, something like that. Limiting decisions. I'm not the kind of person who. I'm just not the marrying sort. I'm just not a good parent, whatever that is. Limiting decisions. So beliefs about yourself, limiting decisions. I'm going to add karmic patterns. Had a wonderful lady the other day who announced in our session that she wanted to work on a genealogical family pattern where the women attract, marry angry, alcoholic men who cheat on them. And she had her evidence lined up and is in a relationship where she's concerned that her current partner is going to be drinking too much, be angry, and is going to cheat on her. And I thought that was a very provocative idea, and that she, in her bloodline, in her lineage, traced back this karmic pattern. Now, whether you buy that everybody's done that, it doesn't matter because she believes it to be true. So as far as she's true, as far as she's concerned, it's true. We cleared it. We used a technique, ho'oku'u actually, and MER to find out exactly how many generations back it went. The final thing that I really want to look at, particularly with longer term clients, is core wounds. Now, this is where it gets dicey because the core wound can sound like a limiting belief or a limiting decision. I'm a loser. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I don't exist. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of existence. They're typically very chunked up, very big, kind of irrational things. Big, huge, honking, irrational concepts, core wounds. They sound like a limiting belief. The difference is that they are the place that in the unconscious mind dare not speak its name, meaning it doesn't come out in the first session. It's not going to be the person coming out and saying, yeah, I just know that I'm not enough because of X, Y, and Z. They don't know. They've just lined up a lot of defenses against that core wound that they never have to feel that. So in your work, if you're with yourself, if you can, mine was I'm not enough. I had a very alcoholic mother, love her to death, bless her soul, rest God, rest her soul. And she basically taunted me into achieving. And if you know me, I have 18 years of college, and I'm going to say a bad word here, and if it gets stricken from Facebook, but well, maybe I won't say the bad word. I was going to say the B word. I'll say the W word. So my task in life was to prove to my mother that I was enough. Hence 18 years of college and all the accolades and all the letters and all the BS, if you will, to prove that which wrong, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm not enough. Well, I'm going to prove to you I'm enough. And so there you go. Now she died in 1984. I think she's fine. I think we're fine. I'm good. I'm enough. I actually got a certificate from the universe a few months ago. I was very touched. Universe was being channeled through Arjul, who works with me. Many of you know Arjul. He often channels the universe. We've identified that he's actually probably a unicorn. Uh, can't predict, can't know, but somehow he channeled the universe into producing a certificate. And I actually came to San Diego, maybe it was for the psychic development class, and it basically says Certificate of Enoughness, Patrick Scott. And I should remember it word for word. I should have memorized it. But basically, you're enough, signed the universe. And that is my core wound. It was my core wound. I've worked on it my whole life. Everyone you work with and you own it. What's yours? Not worthy of love, whatever it is. If you can daylight that and have the courage to say, yeah, I totally get it. I have crafted a life. I have carefully crafted a life where I have to prove and defend against that core wound. Every human that I've ever worked with, I can't say encountered because I don't get that intimate, but I deal with people at a very deep level. Every human has something. And so we're in good company. I would imagine half the people on this call have something about I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm too tall, too thin, too short, too dark, too light, whatever. Everybody's got something, and that forms the foundation for our defense mechanisms, which forms the foundation for our baggage. So core wounds is core. It's at the deep. Then I go into, and this is still part of the protocol, 5 negative emotions, the limiting beliefs, limiting decisions, karmic patterns, and core wounds. And then now we're into internal conflicts. Now, for those of you that have studied NLP, parts integration, for those of you that are more familiar with Huna, the K-Ave process. And for those of you that have done advanced work at Huna, and I see that we have some level 4 students here, the behind the curtain Wizard of Oz thing is there's actually there's certainly a linguistic parts integration at the upper levels of NLP, and there's a similar version of the K-Ave process without the need for the specific parts, and you'll enjoy that as you get to level 4. But there's many ways to integrate these disparate parts. This works in my clinical practice beautifully with dissociative identity disorder, where I've got several at the clinic in Las Vegas now. I mean, I have one lady who has 26 distinct personalities. She's actually created a PowerPoint of her personalities. Her full-time job is navigating and talking about these personalities, and she will flip in and out of them. And it's a show. It's really, really a show. And what we're doing are very subtle, because these are defense mechanisms. She has actually complex post-traumatic stress disorder. She was in kind of a cultish human trafficking situation for many years, a lot of trauma. And so the unconscious mind builds these defenses, and these Huna techniques, the K-Ave process, among others, are a really good way to integrate those. And this is when that's the extreme, just walking around every day, if you feel torn about something, conflicted. And again, the saying in NLP is part of me wants this, part of me wants that. It can feel more like you have a decision to make, more like you don't like an aspect of yourself. We talk a lot about dream interpretation. And if you have a dream, many times, and this is just the cheat sheet on dream interpretation, if you are expressing something in a dream or there's some manifestation in a dream, chances are, I'm going to say much of the time, I'm going to say all the time, that it's an aspect of yourself you are wrestling with. And so, if you see or hear or experience something in a dream and it's really triggering out there, your unconscious mind is projecting it out there so you can take a look at it. We talk as well in parts integration and K-Ave process about the shadow. If you're pointing the finger out there and doing the blame thing, like I joked about a few minutes ago, and saying, he, she, it makes me mad. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they're doing that over there. How dare those fill in the blank, fill in the political party, the religion, the sun, moon, the stars, whatever it is. You have the 3 fingers pointing back at you, and this is hard for people to hear. This is the second reason people say F you to me. When I say what aspect of yourself owns that, they don't like it. Depending on where they are, it can be a rapport breaker, but it is very powerful when they go, that's totally me. I totally do that in this other arena, or I have totally done that in my life and so hate myself for doing it and feel guilty, that kind of thing. So the shadow work can be parts integration, K-Ave process. Internal conflicts can be, to integrate multiple personalities, dissociative identities, just feeling torn about a life decision. Children, no children. Parent, no parent. Do I This is a common one with the people that I'm seeing on this call. Do I keep a job or do I become an entrepreneur? It's a big one. I'll tell you, having had a job and having been an entrepreneur, there's great aspects and great challenges to both things. It really is a matter of your path. You sometimes you may feel there's a fork in the path, and you're called to make a decision. Great use of the Kave process and/or parts integration. And as you're capturing these, and again, we have a wide variety of skill level here. You can Google all these things and find resources, not only at drpatrickscott.com, huna.com. Dr. Matt has a wonderful app that pretty much has all this stuff. But most of you I know are really dialed into all of these techniques. It's not a big stretch for you. But for those couple of you that are maybe new to Huna and/or NLP, just look it up or send us at info@drpatrickscott.com. Send us a question. We'd be happy to respond. Okay, that, and then finally is Ho'oponopono, or forgiveness. Now notice I do Ho'oponopono last. Now, this sounds like a really long, like you're spending 6 hours a day in daily practices. You're not, and I'll get to that in a minute. I can feel into it. You going, yeah, I can't work anymore because I have to do practices all day. I can't possibly. I'm gonna have to stop eating, and I can't go to work because I'm going to be in meditation and trance doing practices. Not so. But the final aspect of this particular protocol that I use is forgiveness. And so all of you, I think most of you, like I said, have know what Ho'oponopono is. If Ho'oku'u is to make release, Ho'oponopono is to become chill, to become aligned, to become pono, to become right. Right with yourself, right with others, right with the world. Ecological, right? Good for self, good for community, good for the planet. Like that, to become pono. And there isn't an exact translation from the Hawaiian to pono, but I'm using it more and more in my work. It's a great word. It's a great word. Just I'm pono. And I have students and people say, are you pono with that? And I'm like, I think I am. Are you okay with it? Are you aligned with it? Are you right with it? Now, there's pono with yourself. The reason why pono, the word pono, is used twice in this particular title of this technique is that it is pono for self, pono for others. Any double usage of a word in the Hawaiian language amplifies it, and in this case means self and others. So there's a built-in, well, people, and I'm intuiting somebody asking this right now. It's a joke, but I like, well, how do you forgive yourself? Technically, the technique, and we have recordings of this, and there's going to be lots of ways to access these tracks as a result of seeing this recording of this Facebook Live. If you're forgiving someone in your mind's eye, let's say someone who's passed, I like Aunt Tilly. Aunt Tilly is a fictional character. Aunt Tilly was just hell on wheels when she was alive. She died. She was just quite a piece of work. And you still have animosity or baggage or charge around Aunt Tilly. When you project Aunt Tilly onto the stage, and this sometimes I get an FU with this too, so hang on. When you project Aunt Tilly onto the stage, it's really the aspect of you that's upset with Aunt Tilly. Sorry, Aunt Tilly's fine. She's great. It's your internal representation of Aunt Tilly that you're putting down there to get peace with, to reconcile whatever baggage there is. I had a lady in a class, nurse training. I trained nurse managers years ago for hospitals around the world. And these were nursing leaders in this particular healthcare organization in Southern California that you know. I'm sure many of you know this particular hospital. And I don't have permission to use the name of the hospital, so I won't. And there were about 25 nurses, many of whom were in later stages of their career. And this was before, and I was not talking about Ho'oponopono. This was pre-Huna, pre-Kumu. I was just talking about the concept of forgiveness. And that when you hold on to animosity, it's yours. And so we were talking about the distinctions around forgiveness, about that forgiving doesn't mean condoning their behavior. Forgiveness doesn't mean saying that it was okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean you want to be their best friend and have coffee or have them in your life at all. Forgiveness is releasing the charge you have. And you can only control yourself. You can't control another living system. And for those of you that have 2-year-olds, even with duct tape and a jail sentence, yeah, it's just, you can't. You can't control directly another living being. Sorry, if there was a way, even without duct tape, I would say go for it, but you can't. You certainly can't control your pets, and you can't control each other. You can't control your children. You can influence them, and that's the best we have. And so all of a sudden, she blurts out in a angry voice to this group of her colleagues, "Oh, so I'm supposed to forgive my uncle for sexually molesting me when I was 7." And then she got the color drained from her face, and she said, kind of with a nervous laugh, "Oh, did I say that out loud?" And, I paused and I said, "Yes, you did." And she started to cry, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, I just can't, I, I just can't imagine forgiving someone who would do that to a child. I just can't. It's just wrong." And I said, "Okay, who have you confronted him?" I'm assuming, well, your uncle is a him. He says, "Well, no, I never confronted." "Did you tell anyone?" "Well, no, I've never told anyone." I said, "So you're telling us?" I said, "How old are you?" She says, "I'm 64. And I said, uh, "How long do you want to hold on to this?" And she got really angry with me. I think she would have said F you if it would have been just she and I. She goes, "I don't want to hang on to this. I don't want to hang on to this for another second. It is so incredibly painful." And I said, "Well, then can you talk to him?" And she said, "No, he's been dead for 25 years. I can't talk to him." And then I said, and it was like you could hear a pin drop in the room. I said, "Have you punished him enough?" She looked at me and, oh man, if looks could kill. Remember, surface emotion is anger. You know what's beneath all this. We all know that. We all knew in that room what was beneath all this, but she was pissed at me because I was pushing her buttons intentionally. And she looked at me with these black eyes glaring, and she goes, "No, he's not the one that's suffering. I'm the one that's suffering." And then she started to cry, and then she got it. She understood that forgiveness is for you. He's fine. He's fine in whatever, hell he's in, or, whatever. We don't know where he is. Maybe he's fine. Maybe that was his path. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. I don't ever claim to know this stuff. But it was a turning point for her because forgiveness means letting go of the charge that you have on them, their behavior, the activity. Now, so funny. I didn't think I could fill up 45 minutes. It's 43 minutes now. I'm ridiculous. So I'm going to summarize, and I'm going to talk about a real practical application before we conclude, and we'll take some questions. I do what I just described, all 5 negative emotions, 4 other things: decisions, beliefs, karmic patterns and core wounds, and Ho'oponopono, mostly every morning and every evening in bed. This is how it goes. Lay in bed, ready for sleep. By the way, no altar, no candles, no special hat, no feathers, no costume. Getting ready for bed. Okay. Body. Asking my body internally. I'm not talking out loud. It tends to alienate my relatives. So I just internally say, okay, here I am, descending into sleep, getting into that brainwave pattern of sleep, looking forward to it. Are there any negative emotions that warrant my attention today? And I'll get a hit. And if I get a hit, great. If I don't get a hit, or if I get a no, in whatever calibration technique you use, whether you just hear it or you feel it or you know it or you have a yes-no mechanism, I'll say, is there any anger? No. Is there any hurt? No. I'll go through them. And if there are none, I just move on. Sometimes there's some, and I do release work every day. Then we move on to, are there any limiting beliefs that warrant my attention today? You can write down this language because I think it's pretty powerful language. Are there any negative emotions that warrant my attention tonight? Right? And if you get a yes, is it anger? No. Is it sadness? Yes. Is it fear? Now remember, you don't have to feel it. You don't have to be pissed off. All you're doing is it's a cleaning of the house before you want to have sweet dreams, hopefully sweet lucid dreams. Are there any negative emotions? Is there any anger? Yes or no? Sadness? Yes or no? Fear? Yes or no? Hurt? Yes or no? Guilt? Yes or no? Clear them. Unconscious mind, light up the baggage associated with anger. Let it go, please. Now you will feel as you get practice, some of you know this already. And for those of you that I see know each other, we do Ho'oku all the time. You can join our structured monthly webinar, but you can also do this. There's also recordings that Dr. Matt has done and that I've done that you can use to assist and facilitate the process. It's going to feel like a physiology. For me, it's like a vapor. It's like an energy leaving my body. And depending on the emotion, depending on the context, it's going to correspond to a chakra, maybe not. Lately, I've been getting a shoulder thing, I don't know exactly what it is. And it's a clearly an energetic feeling. It's not a muscle pain. I didn't, do too many push-ups. God knows. Um, so you do that, then you go into limiting beliefs, decisions. You may not get anything. Don't beat yourself up. Yes or no. Is there a core wound that warrants my attention? Is there an aspect of a core wound that warrants my attention? Then you move into uh, are there any parts? Are there any splits? Are there any parts? Are there any internal conflicts that want my attention? And if there are, I don't do the whole process, the hands thing. I do just, can we please resolve them so I can sleep? Can we just please merge them till we sleep? I don't need content. I don't need context. I don't need to know the details. I just want to sleep. So then, finally, is there anyone with whom forgiveness is warranted? Now, Dr. Matt proposes for those of us that are teachers, no matter what, you do it anyway. I'm not teaching every day. I just say, is there any forgiveness that's warranted? Sorry, most days there are, but some days there aren't. Maybe I've had a quiet day. I haven't encountered anyone, but it's not a conscious process. I'm not saying let me get my appointment book and look. Okay, oh boy, yeah, that Arjul. Ooh, got to work on him today. Giving Arjul a hard time. It's a matter of what your unconscious mind presents for your attention. Now, as you get better at this will become a more seamless process. And that can take from 30 seconds to a whopping 5 minutes if there's a lot of baggage going on. I know at Huna, you got an hour and a half for this one and an hour and a half for that one. And we're teaching the technique. We're teaching the process. We got full initiators in the back. We're flowing energy. As a practitioner, depending on your level, you can get really facile. And so 5 minutes. I do it in the morning too, before I get out of bed. Most of the time. I always do it in the evening. Most of the time I do it in the morning, just to clear, just to check. Just, okay, anything come up overnight? Dreams, journal dreams, that's it. Now, we'll do webinars in the future where I'll add to this, but this is a lot. I know it feels like a lot. It's really a great way to stay grounded and to stay clean. And in terms of a time commitment, 5 minutes max. All right, so we are at 47 minutes, 48 minutes. What questions? I'm just simply think if there's anything else. No, that's what I really wanted to convey. That's a core deal. There are other things I do. I do journal. I do chant. I do vocalize. I do a lot of things, and I only commit never more than an hour and a half, mostly less than an hour of morning, and I do them in the morning primarily. And so if this is oh, I don't have the time. Yeah, I don't have time to go to the gym either. I have plenty of time. I just don't go to the gym as much as I could. It's not a time issue. It's a lazy issue, which is a limiting belief. I may work on it tonight. So what questions do you have? And I think the way we do this is you put a question in the comments, right? That's how it works here, right? And then I look at it. Okay. And so if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. A couple people have asked how, and this is very flattering, can you, Patrick Scott, please mentor me to be you, which is a big job, a lot going on here. There's a couple people on the call that have asked me that question. That's why I'm addressing it historically. And the way to do it is to study Huna. You start by taking a class or two, and of course with COVID, we have canceled and postponed a lot of classes this year. So I would recommend Dr. Matt's book on Huna. It's just Huna, and Dr. Matt James to read it. I certainly see people individually. I coach people individually. We are doing a Huna level 1 class, level 1. This year for us is the only thing we're offering. We were offering other things that we had canceled by virtue of the virus. And that class is in person, October 21st to the 25th at Mount Charleston in Las Vegas. Kumu Matt is also, and I'll be there teaching at Kumu Matt's class in Scottsdale, Arizona, September, middle September. You can go to huna.com and find that information. I'll be teaching there. My office is available at info@drpatrickscott.com. The email, the office phone number is 702-792-7080. And so if that's any questions about whether you want to work with me individually, what programs we have coming up, it's a rough year. And so like that, we're trying. And so I'm going to do more of these. I know I'm going to do more of these. In fact, I think we're doing one every couple weeks until October, on a different topic. So these are free, so anybody can join these. And so you can invite people and then the recordings are available as well. Okay. Any questions? Oh my gosh. So I just noticed David Shepard is on here, and I know he's not wearing lipstick. It must be, what time is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, David Shepard. Thank you so much. He says, aloha kumu. David Shepard's a master, a trainer of NLP. He's my colleague. We both teach in Kona, and he's been a mentor and teacher of mine. I'm so flattered that he would be here. I'm hoping he is unable to come to Kona. Well, none of us are going to Kona. Hawaii is closed, apparently. The restrictions of travel on Europe to the United States means that Kumu Jane and Kumu Dave can't come to our class, so they will be sorely missed. I see my good friend Melanie, who is in Montreal, Canada. I see Kristen from Phoenix. I see Jocelyn, who's here in Minneapolis. I see Daryl, who is in San Diego. Sandy Rosenthal, hello. Carlene, nice to see you. I think Carlene is in Canada too. This is so fun. I think I want to do this again. This is like old time. Nancy Lee is here, and Joanne, California. Argel is laughing at me, which he likes to do. And Rebecca, so nice to see you. Islena, so nice to see you. Rhonda from Australia. We have some of our Australian students who also can't come by virtue of what's going on. Sylvia, lovely to see you. And Nancy says, please do more videos. I think I will. All right, so we are at 52 minutes. I haven't gotten any questions. So we'll end class as we always end class. And I just like to do it because it's a nice tradition. Some of you know this if you don't know it. Some Hawaiian words. Repeat after me. Malamapono. We all stand in righteousness. Aloha keakua. We lead with love. Let love be your shield. Aloha kekahi I kekahi. Love one another, particularly in this time. Lead with aloha. Lead with love. Love one another. Make aloha your preeminent energy, the energy of love. And finally, because we as a group in some form will see each other again, either in person or on a webinar, we say a hui ho. There was no word. Aloha was used for both hello and goodbye, but there really wasn't a word for goodbye because in the spiritual nature of things, we're all going to be seeing each other and connecting with each other forever. We say a hui ho, which means we as a group on some level will see each other again. So I wish you the best of aloha, and we'll see you soon.